Hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Victor Fraga from D Movies, and we've just watched Beyond Citizen Kane. And I'd like to say I'm very happy to be here with you, and with John, who is the film producer. But in a way, I'm also very sad to be here. Beyond Citizen Kane was made 23 years ago, dismantling the farce of Globo, and a lot of what you've seen in the film is exactly what's happening right now. I'll give you just one example of what Globo has done in the past few months, which deeply reflects what we saw in Beyond Citizen Kane. So Globo, as you saw in the film, muted the voice of the metal workers back in the 80s to say that they didn't have a voice, that they weren't fighting. Well, Globo again muted the booing of Michel Temer during the opening of the Olympics. Lula has been a consistent victim of Globo throughout its history. In the past 35 to 40 years, Globo has consistently done its best to smear Lula. We saw what Globo did in the collar debate. But most recently, the day before Dilma's final impeachment in Senate, it was reported that Temer and Serra had swindled, had built 23 million reais, and instead, Globo just reported their headlines were Lula's wife and son have been summoned to a police station to explain about the refurbishment of the kitchen of the countryside of a friend. Yesterday, Globo went to hospital with the police as Judge Moro arrested the former finance minister of the Workers' Party while he was in hospital in theater while his wife was operated against cancer. So this grotesque show has been going on for 25 years. And I've got John in here, who was the film producer 23 years ago. The film director, Simon Hartog, he died before the film was completed. So John had a major role in putting this film together, particularly at the post-production stage. John is also a professor of media studies at the Royal Holloway University, so his importance is really dual. So first, I'd like to ask John, and I'll open it to you as well, so you can ask a couple of questions. But John, how does it feel to see your film being so current and unfortunately, or perhaps sadly, so urgent 23 years later that even the characters in the film remain the same? Lula is still active, Chico Buarque is still active, the actors are still active, and Globo is still using the same tactics. How does it feel? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Well, I mean, it's really great for Simon Hartog that his film lives on, but it's also really very depressing because he made this film to change the situation. Here we are, 25 years later, the situation hasn't changed. So it's great and it's really depressing at the same time. I mean, Simon died, he edited this program and died before it was shown. I had then to re-edit the program because in the intervening time, Collor was impeached. So we had to change the program a bit. Then we had to justify some of the stories, like the Net Brazil story. We had to do some more journalistic work on it, and then finish the program. And it was shown eventually in 1993 in the UK. Simon, before he died, had made very sure that the program could be shown in Brazil. So he gave the rights to a number of organizations to show the program as part of his agreement with Channel 4, who paid for it. So that's why the program is widely distributed, and it's why TV Globo has never been able to suppress the program. Not that actually they tried very hard. They called me the day after the transmission of the program and said, we'd like to buy this program from you. And I said, fine, you know, it's 10,000, I can't remember how much. I asked for a lot of money, $50,000 I think, and they said, okay. And I said, well, there's one thing you must know. All you can get is the right to broadcast the program in Brazil. That's fine, you know, a third of the content is theirs anyway. So I'm selling them back what they earn. But I said, the non-broadcast rights are already contracted to a number of organizations, so I'm afraid you can't buy those. I never heard from them again. Never got $50,000 in Globo, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, again, let's go back to the subject of Lula. Lula right now is at the eye of the hurricane. After this film was made, the PT, the Workers' Party, was voted and finally got into power in Brazil despite fierce opposition from Globo and from the mainstream media. Veja, the magazine which appears in the film, has dedicated about 40 of its covers to slamming Lula as hard as they can. The last one goes as far as picturing a decapitated, bleeding Lula. So they have suggested Lula and Dilma should be tortured in a square. So, and Globo, while a little bit more subtle, is still getting the message out there. Lula shouldn't be ruling us. Globo has never dedicated any airtime to supporting the Workers' Party government, and its coverage has been incredibly biased throughout. The reason why we're here, of course, is to bring attention to the fact that in a democratic nation, a TV station should not have as much power. We have seen bias in the BBC, in Fox News, but I think the reason why this is called Beyond Citizen Kane is because Globo goes far beyond the BBC, goes far beyond Fox News, and it literally has a monopoly of how people think. How sad and how ironic that all these people, Brizola has died, but Lula remains there. All of those actors we saw there are still mostly fighting for democracy in Brazil. How ironic is it that 23 years later, after we've seen so many developments in Brazil, things continue exactly the same. And Globo adapted from the military dictatorship to democracy. However, it has not changed its manipulative tactics. Do you see, John, any parallels between what Globo does with the BBC or with all of your knowledge in international media? Do you see any parallels elsewhere, or do you really think this is a unique case?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Well, the program argues quite correctly what is the basis of Globo's power. The basis of Globo's power is entertainment. And that's what makes this the same case as media around the rest of the world. It is entertainment that makes media power, and on the basis of entertainment, and on the basis of the loyalty that you get, and the worldview that you make in your entertainment, you can then project a news and information service. You can form how politics is viewed. So I see the core of Globo's power, and the core of power television in general, in its entertainment. Now the problem is, academically, most people see the two as separate. Most people see, entertainment as being the froth, not important. It's the core of power. And it's only on the basis of that power in entertainment that then these kind of subtle changes to news can get their credibility. And you saw that couple, a very interesting couple in the interview, who initially quite reluctant to talk about their enjoyment of entertainment, a couple from the left. They were kind of reluctant to talk about what entertainment they watched. And it was only when they began to open out towards the end of the program, as they did in the interview, that you see actually that they are getting their news from Globo, and they believe that Globo news is true. Why do they trust Globo? Because of the entertainment. And that's the core of it, and that's why television around the world gets its power. Now the problem in this country, and we have problems, is not one of biased news. In a way, the problem we've just had with the Brexit vote, the vote to come out of the European Union, was a problem of balance. The BBC was obliged, and other news media were obliged, to give equal balance to two sides of an argument, even when one side of the argument had little or nothing to say, when actually they had no argument to make, particularly about the economic case for leaving the European Union. So any old rubbish they could make up was reported. And this is where we end up now. Enough people were convinced by that, the odd 500,000 people convinced by that, to sway the referendum in the wrong, as I would put it, way. So, but the basis of people believing that news, people believing that balance, and the credibility that balance gave to the side who are arguing essentially rubbish, is again in the power of the entertainment and the trustworthiness of that organisation in entertainment terms, and not necessarily news terms.
Okay. Well, we're going to have time for 2 very quick questions, and then we're going to do one very quick picture. Have you got?
Could you tell us anything about Rede Globo and its reach that was mentioned there?
Can you? I'll
Can
pass.
you say anything about Rede Globo, the PT programming that was?
Rede Globo.
Rede Globo. Rede Globo was
I'll let you.
During the PT campaign, they did like no paradigm, but like they did this instead of Rede Globo, they put it as Rede Povo, like people's television. Okay, translating, but was to taking a little bit mic, like no, but instead of
Parody.
parody, yeah.
How was it broadcast?
No, it was just part of the campaign.
Okay.
It wasn't like it was like also advertised. Like instead of Rede Globo with the old power, like it was like Rede Povo, like people's rate for the campaign, for Lula's campaign. But I think that what Brizola said during the movie is very, very powerful, because what Brizola was saying is that once the left wing gets the power, the first thing they will do is change the monopoly of Globo, change how it was how can you say it was established. But one of my big disappointment with Lula, to be honest, and I think that he made lots of mistakes, but one of his big mistakes was when he got, like when we won the election, next day he gave an exclusive interview to Rede Globo, just for Rede Globo. And then on that time, I thought all my dreams, all my how can I say, expectation, it went ruined, because of disappointment. Like once you get the power, it's a time for change, and real change, like Brizola was saying. Do you know what I mean? And on that time, Lula gave an exclusive interview just for Rede Globo. Like when I say, oh, he's part of the system now.
Okay.
And now, but then he said it's a kind of governability. Globo was the biggest television in Brazil, so it's also like a part of to sell or to advertise the government program.
Okay. Any more questions? I think we've got a question in here.
John, just to take up your point about the BBC and Global, and they were talking about the balance with the BBC. Do you know in Brazil and television companies, is there any onus on television companies to provide balance in their political coverage or not? And if there's not, during the years of Lula's government, was there an attempt to introduce legislation to try to bring that into media coverage?
Do you want me to?
I don't know.
there is very limited limitation in Brazil as to establishing that there's a balance as with the BBC. All TV stations, for the coup in 1964, there was one television station, Associated, that did not support it, and it soon saw its end. It's fair to say that pretty much every TV channel supported the coup this time, in ensuring that there is, which is a clear sign that there is no balanced coverage in Brazil. The concessions are incredibly long. They just renewed the concession for TV Globo recently. So TV Globo, whether you like it or not, is going to be around for a long time. It's important to say Globo does have a liberal side, does have a more progressive side to it. It does have to play both cards. When you think of Marcel Carnet, one of the most subversive French filmmakers, was the biggest star of the Third Reich. You begin to understand that even the most reactionary media do need liberal voices. So I'm afraid there's no black and white answer to what to your question. And the Brazilian legislation is very loose. There's nothing preventing bias. And what we're seeing in Brazil now is beyond bias. We're seeing morals being thrown out of the window. We're seeing a juristocracy where the Supreme Tribunal controls pretty much everything, and absolutely everything is justifiable, and supported by Globo. So it's not comparable to anything in Europe. It's not that developed. Our democracy is very young, and so our legislation, our constitution is very young. And I think we have one more question. And
yeah, just a question. As this film is very, very modern in the actual for us, have you got any plans to relaunch the film or promote more for the people? Because it's very interesting for young people to see this film again, to have something in the past, and the parents or themselves to have this in the past, because the Rede Globo was the history of many Brazilians here. If you start singing any hit from any people who are singing Globo, so any plans to relaunch?
Thank you so much for asking. I'm going to answer on my behalf and John's behalf. We are soon starting a crowdfunding campaign. Myself and filmmaker Valnei Nunes, we are in the pre-crowdfunding stage. We will start the campaign around December. We want to place this amazing film. We have the kind support of John. We want to place this film in this modern context and show that provisionally the title of the film is Globo and the Coup, just history repeating. We're going to use footage from the film. Hecor had previously bought this, but that was only for 5 years, so now we're free to use it. And we are going to show that history is pendular, things are happening again, but we certainly hope that there won't be a third version in 25 years' time.
Okay, the film is available on YouTube in multiple versions, and an official version nowadays with English subtitles, and I do apologise that there were none on this particular copy. Until yesterday, part 2 was not available for some time on YouTube because the wonderful digital robots of Globo had discovered there was some Globo footage in it and had asked YouTube to take it down. Yesterday night I heard that YouTube had decided that Globo had no right to do this, and so all 4 parts are now available again on YouTube. So this program is done. I would say that actually that this is not something which is what you're talking about is a global issue and not simply a Brazilian issue on 2 grounds. First, that we are seeing a degradation of media standards, reporting standards around the world, and no more so than in America, really.
Yeah.
And we're going to see the consequences of this in another election in a few months. The other thing is that what happens in Brazil matters desperately to the rest of the world because of what was being done to the Amazon under the old regime, which slowed down under the Workers' Party, but now the degradation, destruction of the Amazon will grow again, and with it the destruction of the global environment. And this is a serious issue, and Globo is now destroying the world.